is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 123. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him E, a.k.a. Lee James, a.k.a. Sebastian Driussi, a.k.a. Eastradamus, a.k.a. Pap E. O'Daniel, a.k.a. The Fashionista, a.k.a. Chili Willie, a.k.a. Joey Chestnut, a.k.a. Ian Stonkel. I think I just set a record there, E. How we feeling?
Feeling great. Just had a nice walk. It's wonderful outside. Beautiful weather. I've been feeling really good about this game, as I've been telling you since the start of this week. I don't know if it's just I'm too high on hopium all the time, or
again,
there's something to it. But I'm looking forward to jumping into this. I got to preview your St. Louis article, which I thought honestly might be a little bit more insulting and spicier.
Okay.
You paid them a lot of compliments with your deep dives into their advanced analytics, and I thought you were just gonna keep going low on them and just talk shit about the city, everything. But it was great, and I'm definitely looking forward to this match. Like I said, man, I just feel good. I don't know if anyone else is with me, but I'm feeling good.
I think the really like low blows, the digs, right? Those are going to come after we take care of business this Saturday.
Okay, so responsible shit talking.
Exactly.
There we go.
And I did just realize as we're going through the intro here, we probably should have planned something a little special for this episode, because the North End, section 123, episode 123. So shout out to all of our section mates there in 123. Excited to see all of our friends and hopefully pick up some points here at home on Saturday.
That's reminded me of when we were driving back from the Spurs game, and you were like, man, I got to pick up some flowers for Annabelle because it's our 13th month post this. So now you're clearly an anniversary date kind of guy there. So that did not cross my mind for section 123. But we'll just take a win. How about that?
Anniversary of the first kiss, trying to be sweet to my fiance.
You're
the kind of guy I am.
Yeah, you're a romantic guy.
Well, let's get into some of the Austin FC talk here for the week. And I guess just wrapping up last weekend, congratulations to Johan Valencia, was named to the team of the match day in MLS, which I think is, they've got 11 starters and then they've got a bench of 8 or 9 guys there. He was on the bench for match day. I think technically it's match day 3 because they gave RSL and Miami their own match week to start the season. But that's his first team of the match day selection, I believe, and played the full 90, obviously in the clean sheet performance against Seattle on the road last Saturday night. He made 11 recoveries, won 5 duels, made 3 interceptions, won 2 tackles, also successfully completed both of his attempted dribbles and 90% pass accuracy. So again, the numbers backing up the eye test. Johan Valencia had a heck of an outing. And I think once we get into this match preview, one of the things we need to debate is how do we align in this midfield coming into Saturday? But congrats to Johan, well-deserved.
It's odd that they didn't have his rocket shot recorded there and his statistics. All jokes aside, congrats. Absolutely well-deserved. Very well earned. He was fantastic and really just the focal point of that defense, the spear of the head, and we got out of there with a point. So congrats to him. The spear of the head.
Spear of the head. Well done by you.
There you go. There's the title.
We also got an article on MLSsoccer.com today from John Arnold, who had interviewed at some point in the recent past our captain. So you can get some Seba quotes here in the Driussi article that dropped today. I grabbed a couple, posted them on the socials. These are 2 that kind of stuck out to me. He said, I think after a really good 2022, we made a big mistake in 2023, which was thinking we could relax, thinking we were going to easily qualify for the playoffs. This league is not like that. If you don't compete, you're not getting into the playoffs because every opponent every match is very difficult. And then talking more about his time, obviously growing up and playing in Argentina for River Plate, comparing and contrasting the fans there, their intensity, the game, obviously different in Argentina compared to the United States. But he said of himself, he said, I'm never going to lose that desire to keep growing and growing as a competitor, because that's what I am. I always want to win, and I get angry when I lose, or when I lose balls I shouldn't lose. I get angry at myself. I'll never lose that. We certainly saw Seba getting angry last year out there on the pitch. But, I guess at least he's not sitting here reflecting on the differences between 22 and 23 and saying, oh, yeah, it wasn't, we're okay. So I just, again, we need our captain out there on the pitch. We got zero shot without him.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with the first part of that there, where did we really get complacent just because we got our ass beat in the Western Conference Finals? Was like that a mountaintop for some of these guys? Like, I understand it's probably the right thing to say, right? Like, you don't want to be out there and be like, oh, we were partying and had a really good offseason like that. I understand that. But everything else you had to say I really like. Continuing to grow. This is a progression thing. You got to keep growing in this game, expanding your skill set. And one of those things we've asked of him is to increase his leadership capacity and his abilities in that field. And I think that taking the time to do this article and putting some stuff front facing that can be criticized and judged and talked about is a good step in that direction. So shout out to 10, and just can't wait to see you back on the pitch, buddy. Just can't wait. And don't worry, I won't be mad at you.
And hopefully this Saturday, right? Because St. Louis City SC coming to town. You can go, after you listen to this part of the match preview, you can go read the full article on the northendpodcast.com. That is posted and live right now for everybody to peruse. So let's dive in here. Another 7:30 kickoff. Actual kickoff time is going to be 7:39 on Apple TV. Of course, not a long history between these two teams, because St. Louis, their first ever MLS match was at Q2 Stadium to open the 2023 season. The shocking defeat, the back pass, then Joao Klaus putting the icing on the cake for St. Louis, 3-2 St. Louis City win. And then coming out of that lengthy Leagues Cup break, the most goals Austin FC has ever given up, 6-3 defeat. And the scoreline makes it look closer than that match actually was. So I think, we may see a little bit of a different outcome here on the scoreboard, because 14 goals combined between these two teams in just 2 games last year. It would be tough, I think, to keep up that pace. St. Louis, after that hot start last year, right, won their first 5 matches. That is really what propelled them to the top overall seed in the Western Conference, because after that first 5 matches, they were a 500 team, 12 wins, 12 losses, and 5 draws, which a 500 team in MLS is a playoff team. But they were not quite, in my eyes, shocker if you're a North End podcast listener, that number 1 team out west. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. That's an amazing feat to even be competing near the top of a conference as an expansion side. And then we all know, upset in that first round by rival 8 seed Sporting KC. And not just an upset, a 2-0 sweep in that best of 3 first round series. Not a ton happening with this roster in the offseason. Their biggest departure, certainly Nico Gioacchini, right? The U.S. international, 10 goals last year in 32 appearances. He was sold in the offseason to second division Italian side Como 1907. They also traded Jared Stroud along with center back Lucas Bartlett to DC United. Of course, Jared Stroud, former Austin FC winger turned villain, right? He had a career high 10 goal contributions for City last year. Couple acquisitions. They replenished their fullback depth chart. Nicholas Deere, 22-year-old left back Last played with Michelin in Denmark. He made his debut off the bench, was a little slow, I think, getting up to speed. Came in at the last minute, 89th, during last week's 2-0 home victory over NYCFC. The return in that Jared Stroud trade with DC was midfielder Chris Durkin. And then Tomas Totland, the right back from Norway, 24 years old. Durkin started last week's match after appearing off the bench in the opener. Totland has started both league games at right back. And some of those numbers, right? Obviously, we talk about XG and some of those metrics on the pod from time to time. We know they're not everything, right? But on FOTMob's Model E last year, St. Louis overperformed their expected goals by a league-high 19.1. And FOTMob also has this new model that they call expected points, which kind of, I think, ties in expected goals, other statistics of that nature, and kind of tries to apply that to the standings. And so it's certainly not anywhere close to a perfect metric here. But I found it extremely interesting that St. Louis in the expected points model there on FOTMob goes from the 1 seed to last in the West, a point below Austin last year in the expected points model. So again, they're on 4 points through these first 2 league matches. They've been at home, I believe, both times. So there is no proof out there yet that they are going to get hit with the cold reality of these underlying numbers, but certainly an okay matchup for them here in their first road match against Austin. They're probably not feeling or not looking at this matchup like it's too daunting. And they do have the Galaxy on the road next weekend. So anything you have to add there on the St. Louis side? Obviously, we've been paying a little bit of attention. They've been in CONCACAF Champions Cup as well, lost in the first round to Houston.
Yeah, I mean, last year when they were that 1 seed, I don't know if anyone really outside of the fan base of that club really viewed them as the top team in the West. And like all those advanced numbers and statistics are great. I don't know if any other team caused me more pain last year than them, to be honest. Like the first game,
maybe Austin.
Yeah, outside of my own team, but dropping that first game in that just heartbreaking fashion, starting this horrible narrative about Kippy, and then when we think we can get them back because they really stole one for us, they absolutely embarrass us and pummel us when we're on the road. So I have a healthy fear of this team. I think I just really feel good about this matchup and the fact that we have looked better progressively since the first half of that first game, which is not the most grand observation of all time. But I still am holding out hope that once 10 is back, this offense will look different, and this will be a great place to get a boost because we were chatting about it earlier. We got 4 of our next 5 here at the Q, and The most important thing is just turning that into a fortress where it's like we are generating 3 points when we are here in the 5-1-2, and that's what this fan base is really clamoring for, and to bring back that atmosphere of 2022 when we were just rocking and everyone was having a wonderful time. So I'm praying, I'm doing what I have to do to make sure that 10 is going to give us some time in this game because, despite those departures, they still have Leuven, and João Klaus is still an absolute monster who is a physical matchup nightmare for a lot of clubs because he is just so imposing. So is Leuven for that matter. And I mean, when they hung 6 on us last year, it was like with relative ease. It almost looked like they weren't breaking a sweat scoring on us. And we tried to, maybe, try to heal that wound a little bit with, eventually the league will catch up to speed with their kind of new style of play that they have brought in. That necessarily hasn't been the case at this point. But I am thirsty, hungry, famished for a victory here at home. So let's do this.
Yeah, and on the Austin side, like you mentioned, the team certainly hasn't looked as bad all around as they did in that first half against Minnesota 2 weeks ago. But the offense has still been anemic, and that may be putting it nicely.
Yes.
And even defensively, man, like, again, we've only let in 2 goals with 45 total shot attempts in 180 minutes of soccer. So, we talked about it on Sunday's episode recapping Seattle, right? There was something to be said for Austin allowing 23 shots, but blocking, I think, 9 of them and having only, 3 or 4 on target, something like that. 4. So, we're overperforming our expected goals against at the 3rd highest rate in the league. It is obviously extremely small sample size that we really shouldn't take as gospel, but those are the numbers through 2 weeks. 2.2 less goals than expected so far, and we're trailing only Inter Miami, which is kind of interesting. But they have played 3 games, and last year's wooden spoon winner, Toronto FC. So, hopefully that defense shores it up even further this week to where we're not allowing as many shots, whether they're on target or not. And then, of course, without the services of Driussi, it is impossible to get an actual feel on what the true ceiling of this team is. I think we've seen what the floor can be. I think we saw that in the opener. But we've generated just 1.2 expected goals and taken 3 total shots on target through the first 2 games. So, again, I don't think that number 10 can go a full 90 this week. Yeah, that's clearly not a hot take. I don't think he's probably fit to start. So I'm hoping for 20 to 30 minutes off the bench, because we saw against Minnesota last year at home when he made his return from that month-long absence, he came in and scored the winner in his 22 minutes or however long he was on the pitch. So we only need that just quick breath of Driussi to infuse that freshly squeezed juice into the team, right? And so to me, it's, can we steal a goal early? Can we control the game? Can we actually keep possession against this team, which is something that, again, it seems like we're obviously hurting without Seba, and we're structured a little bit differently, trying to protect that back line more. So it's been tougher for us to hold on to the ball as we've done over the first 3 years. And man, I didn't think I would be sitting here wanting more possession, but being able to, not that we need 55% possession, of course, but to limit those turnovers that we saw in both weeks, I think is going to be key here.
I mean, look, man, if he doesn't start, to me, best case scenario is you try to get to 0-0 until he's about to come into the game, because anything other than that just seems like that hopium that I've been ingesting so much of lately. But man, I hope he starts. I hope he fucking starts, man, because
it'd be a huge boost.
We need that boost right now. And if we come out flat in this game and the fans are already upset and we're not generating any sort of offense, that atmosphere is going to be ripe for a team to come in and take some points off of us. So I am hoping that, that the Seattle game was more of a precautionary thing and part of his distaste for playing on the turf surface and not wanting to risk him so early, and that he can be ready for 60 minutes this game from start to finish. And, and even that sort of storyline that kind of could play out, that game plan that could kind of play out, we have more defensive options to bring in if we have a lead. And we saw in Seattle, we can go and sit in that horseshoe and get the right amount of production out of Johan. Whereas, like you hinted at, we got to talk about this lineup, because we don't have a backup 10 right now. There's nobody who, I'm not even asking you to fill Seba's shoes here. I'm just asking, do we have a guy who's competent at the 10 spot? And the answer has been no. And I know you want to talk about the lineup. I do too. I think Danny's got to be benched. I do. Johan, I don't see.
Are you saying Danny should be benched in the sense that Seba is back in there? Or so I guess I'll ask you this.
Yes.
So Seba back and starting.
Yes, and then it's Alex and Johan behind him.
Okay.
That's ultimately what I want. If Seba is not playing, then I don't I really don't know what to do at this point. Like, it failed with Owen. It failed with Danny. I don't know if you try to shift Rigoni there and see what happens. But like nothing happened with the other two there that was positive, like nothing.
Yep.
So the first 11 is something that I'm really going to be keeping an eye out for, and just like hoping that it's good, solid.
Yeah.
Like it has to be.
I think there's a number of ways we could go here. Again, if Driussi is in there and starting, like, obviously then you just got 2 spots to fill behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that regardless, like, let's say it's the same 3 guys in the midfield from last week, right? You got Danny, you got Ring, and you got you. I think what I would do, playing amateur soccer coach here, is swap Alex and Danny's spots there. And because we know that last year, one of the main reasons that we were given for the Owen Wolf, Danny Pereira pairing there in the midfield behind Seba was that the one adjustment we wanted to make from 22 to 23 was being a little bit more press resistant. And that obviously didn't work with flying colors. But I think we need at least one of those guys back there for that purpose, because we know St. Louis is coming at our head, right? And I personally feel a little bit better with a Danny or an Owen Wolf back there than I do with an Alex Ring. That's just going off what I've seen over 3+ seasons now when we face a team that plays this type of style. And I'm not super confident in Johan back there either, but like we said on Sunday, how do you bench this guy right now?
Yeah.
Even carrying in his last, month and a half of the 23 season, he was one of the few bright spots then too.
Yeah,
it's a conundrum. And I guess the point that I want to make to any of the North End faithful is don't be surprised to see Danny and maybe Owen with him in there. I think we could see this midfield really shooken up in this one compared to what we've seen over the first 2, Driussi or not.
I'm with you there. I understand where you're coming from. Having Alex kind of pushed up a little higher is just it doesn't sound great to me. And this is a huge issue right now with the construction of this team. If Seba goes down again, man, like God forbid or whatever, like it's just a mess when we're trying to replace any sort of productivity that he has. I think that, man, I just hope he starts. That'll take away all these issues for me personally. I'm most likely everybody else, but I mean, it is a mess. And Johan has been the best midfielder we've had out of the 4 that we've talked about here with Alex, Danny, and Owen as well. I think that the Owen and Danny pairing that you're hinting at here, now that you've I've run it through the blender a little bit, that seems to make a little more sense, because at least they can have that line-breaking speed. Alex isn't beating anybody off the bounce, off the dribble. Like, it's not happening. So, oh boy. All right, the hopium, it's been deflated a little bit.
Well, I'm sorry for bringing you down a little bit. I guess the only other thing I'd add, then we can move on, is my thinking with Alex being flipped in front of Danny for this. I think the only game that I remember seeing that was at Dallas last year, and it worked pretty darn well until Danny went and got himself thrown out. So again, I do think that's the only example we have of that particular midfield alignment, but it wasn't bad for the 60 or so minutes that we saw it.
I mean, all right, so let's just say, do you think there's any chance we're going to get shifted to the 10 and then you start O'Brien and Finley? Because from a talent standpoint, that maximizes guys at our positions that we can work with here, because we know Alex is not a solid 10, and it's like we don't have another option.
Yeah. I think if we're doing that, then why don't we just go back to that box midfield look that we had last year and push the wing backs up?
I was also thinking that the box midfield, this might be the time to bust this out. If we're trying to go for some more possession and just hold on till 10 can actually get back into the game, and then we can switch into a different formation, I think that is a very sound idea for us. But I mean, shit, man. if Josh started Rigoni at the 10 and we lost, he would get killed.
What is he going to do where he's not going to get killed?
For sure, but like that would really, you would blend both of the most hated.
Well, I think, not that I'm not saying he would get credit for this, but I want to see tangible changes from match to match, because that's, especially with a team that is behind the 8 ball in this league from a talent perspective at this moment.
Yep, you have to.
You got to do a job coaching, and like these guys, Josh and the entire staff, have their work cut out for them this year, and we need to continue to see those changes, right? We've seen some here at the beginning of the season that clearly they've been working on over the last 2 months since camp began. But you got to continue to evolve. You got to roll with those punches, man. Injuries, they're going to come and go.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see what rolls out there. And again, Thursday, when the majority of you are probably listening to this, or after the fact, I believe Thursday morning, we should get media availability. So hopefully we're getting news that, yes, Seba is more on the probable side, which is how I read the comments last week for this match. But you never know. It's not a certainty till he's on that team sheet.
Yep, and we've been known to mess around with injury stuff, so I'm just hoping for – God, I just hope.
Yeah, well, you can go northendpodcast.com. You can see it on the screen. Recent form, injury reports, players to watch, keys to the game, and our predictions. So I will throw it to you first. How much is Austin FC winning by on Saturday?
All right, perfect scenario. 10 starts the game, scores the goal for us. We go up 1-0. We move back into the horseshoe with defensive alignment, and we win 1-0.
Okay, 1-0 win for E. And this feels
gotta adjust your seat. It feels so so wrong, huh?
Yeah, because I've got us scoring twice.
Boy. Did you just write this article?
This is requiring Sebastian Driussi to play off the bench and come in and score the winner. So we both have him scoring the winner, but I have us going into, 60th minute or so, 1-1. I think the offense is going to have a little bit more juice here at home. I think, again, St. Louis, what I've thought about this team for over a year now, it feels like. I think we can take advantage of some of their aggressiveness as long as we can possess the ball a little bit better. Again, depending on how that midfield lines up to start the game, that will dictate how I actually feel walking into the stadium on Saturday. But I've got Austin FC 2-1 victory here. And we don't care how you get it done, boys. Just we need 3 points.
And look, okay, here's a little more opium for you, right?
All right, give me some.
The unit that has been the most sound with the ball has been the back four. Sure. Legitimately, they have been the most. We have not seen these devastating turnovers out of them that we have in the past. And I know that the benchmark was very low because we've had some very bad passes out of the back, but they have been very sound. Hedges and Julio have looked a little more confident with one another, a little more in sync. So I'm hoping that we can control that press with those back four, which would then lead to advantageous positions because they are so far pushed up on us. There's your hopium. Put it right in the main vein.
There you go. 7:30 on Saturday. Excited to see all of you at the Q. Let's talk a little bit here about the Open Cup. We talked about the first round matchup, Austin FC 2, 4 OSC, Tuesday after next at Parmer Field. And I believe it was Tuesday when we got the email, the season ticket members got the email that they were invited to enter a drawing for a chance to win complimentary tickets to the first round match at Parmer Field. And I think there are many angles to what has become a little bit of a controversy here on Wednesday of this week because there are, I don't know, give or take 14, 15, 16,000 season ticket holders at Q2 Stadium. And every season to this point, season ticket holders have had, I believe, up to 2 Open Cup home games included in their membership. As of last year, up to 2 Leagues Cup games included in their membership, up to 1 friendly every year. We've had Tigres come through. We've had Pachuca come through. I think Atlas, that was a preseason friendly, though. And so now that, there's levels to this, because to my knowledge, this whole fiasco is Austin FC doesn't have a hand in it, right? This is MLS and what they're telling Open Cup and what they're telling US Soccer, and how they came to this agreement this year, where Austin FC was not one of the teams that played well enough last year to have their first team in this tournament. And so now we're giving away tickets in a ticket drawing, which, like, the seating I don't think is more than 1,000 at Parmer Field. And they're also saying in here that there's standing room only tickets. So let's call it 1,200, 1,300 that can fit into Parmer. Like, I think there's going to be more than that want tickets. But I also can understand the club's position that there's not nearly enough to make sense of opening up the gates to Q2 for this one. I'm not saying that's how I feel, but I understand that could be the business decision on the club side of things. So I guess just discussing this here a little bit, what's your take on, I don't know, what the club should do, how the fans should feel, any of that? Because I will add this. I saw somebody go back and post, go back and post what the like terms and conditions of the season ticket benefits are. And I think there's an asterisk there that says, first of all, it says up to 2 US Open Cup home matches upon hosting a home match. It says that these are explicitly for Austin FC matches held at Q2 Stadium, potentially up to 2 US Open Cup matches. So I can also understand where the club's coming from in terms of saying, like, hey, these aren't Austin FC matches, so it doesn't qualify here. And again, that in the TNC there, it's up to, right? They're not actually guaranteed. I don't think that means we should feel okay about this as fans. So what's your take on all this?
It's a mess, man. And it starts at the top with the league dropping the ball once again, creating a disaster for, I don't know what their reasoning is. Like, do they have a sound basis for just generating this much turmoil and animosity over this cup and like wrecking season ticket holders' chances to go see their favorite team play in a cup? We've been told for so long, like, part of the thing that makes this league unique is that there's this in-season cup all the time that can happen and take place, and you get to see different teams, and you get to make a run at a championship. And sometimes we even value these cups more than we value the regular season and the playoffs sometimes. And I understand that standpoint. And if you're MLS, to have this much of a fucking disaster with this tournament is just flat out embarrassing. Again, I don't know. The people don't need to be reminded anymore that we have the greatest soccer player of all time in this league right now. And we continue to have misstep after misstep in the management of this league, in the transparency of this league, in how the fans can interact with the league. It is just flat out embarrassing by the MLS. So with all of that aside, I don't really want to steal your answer that you educated me on before we jumped on the show, where you talked about taking the operating loss and opening up the stadium. And if it doesn't get filled, it won't get filled. Fine. That's okay. We can't necessarily control the fact that there's X amount of people who don't want to go to a Tuesday night game to watch a junior club play another junior club. But we can control the fact that we want to have enough capacity and ability for those people who want to go see that on a Tuesday night to handle it. And I think there has to be, I don't manage a fucking stadium, never have in my life, but I think there has to be ways where you could channel the foot traffic, the security that needs to be in place, the only available open vendors that need to be in place, anything to get people in there. And you already know that people are pissed off. And this is a fan base that has been pissed off for a little while now. So to not be able to have the chance because you missed out on a drawing to go see this game is not a great look. And I understand that this is a business and I don't have money invested in the club per se, like on that level, I'm a season ticket holder myself, but I don't view myself as some sort of shareholder or, stakeholder on the board or anything.
Sure,
So like,
sure.
I understand that they have their benchmarks and goals that they need to reach and all that shit as well. But like, this is what makes sport unique. This is what makes it a little different, baby. Like we have the infusion of not just it being a business venture. You have people who are passionate, they're playing their entire weeks around it. Like we've been talking about how excited we are to go see these cup games since last year, and it sucks. It really just sucks. And I don't blame anyone who's upset or mad about this situation. And I don't know what to do about the drawing. We talked about wanting to go see this game and relegating the fact that we were just going to have to go to Parmer anyway. But now we might not even have the chance to do it, which it just doesn't seem like a great idea.
Yeah, I think, and it depends, right? Like, I don't think it's out of the question that we don't sell out the allotment of tickets that are in this drawing, because I think there's probably the average season ticket holder probably doesn't give a shit about this game because it's the second team. If they're playing against a semi-pro or even amateur side, we'll talk more about 4-0 in a week and a half. But I do feel like, kind of like you hinted at earlier, and we were discussing before we hit record here, I just think the easy decision, again, I don't have the numbers in front of me on how much money they would project to lose opening the stadium up here, but can you open half of it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just the east side or something like that, and you open up a couple restaurants, couple drink vendors there, and you get 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people into Q2, and the FCTO boys get to play at Q2.
Yeah.
I think it should be a priority to satisfy every season ticket holder that wants to see this match live. If the demand is too much for Parmer, to open up the queue. Because for all the reasons you pointed out, and mainly that the hyper engaged part of this fan base, a huge segment of them are upset with their experience as a fan spanning almost an entire year. Because I think even at this point last season, we were still a little bit in the honeymoon phase coming off the conference finals appearance. But April, May, June last year, things really started to turn for some people, and that group hasn't gotten smaller. And so to make this decision, I think if that number goes over whatever your capacity is, I would hope we see them make the switch if that's the case. So I guess I don't have much else to add on that, but I definitely get where people are coming, fans are coming from, and I get where the club is coming from too. But I side with us.
I mean, and that's it. And there's also an opportunity here, right? Like there is an opportunity to get people in the stadium who otherwise would not have the chance to do so. And if we want to talk about community and supporting all sorts of different organizations and communities in Austin, there's a large portion of people who just flat out cannot fucking afford to go to a game at Q2 in this city. And you have a chance right now, even though it is not your ultimate product, to at least allow people into the stadium and get to have that experience, get to have the FC2 boys have their experience out there on that pitch, man. Like it's not that big of a deal if it's not sold out. Like it's really not. So, we'll see how the drawing goes and people's reactions to that and whatnot, but it's a mess right now. And while there has been some missteps by our club in particular, it starts at the top with the league and their mishandling of this.
Yeah.
And we have a ref strike. Like what? Like, come on. This is absurd, man.
Yep. I'm with you. We can keep moving here, really get into last business day now. And we can welcome our new assistant coach. Chris Harmon was announced yesterday on Tuesday. Harmon's most recent role was with the Red Bulls Academy. He was the U17 head coach, originally from Pennsylvania, Old Dominion, grad E. He played college soccer there, and then coaching career began at the collegiate level, assistant coach at Florida Southern, then returning to his alma mater there at Old Dominion as their assistant, spent some time as head coach and assistant academy director at Barca Residency Academy, joining Coach Utley and goalkeeper coach Cameron Sorrow on the FCTO coaching staff. So welcome, Coach Harmon.
Welcome indeed.
FCTO finishes their preseason exhibitions final match this Saturday against Richland College at the Performance Center, closed to the public. So this time next week, we will have our first FCTO preview of the season. Tacoma Defiance coming to town. Can't wait for that. On the academy side of things, I believe their regular season has come to a close. If anything, bye week this weekend, but we did get the 2024 Generation Adidas Cup details announced. Of course, this is one of the, if not the premier international invitational tournament in youth club soccer. Sending our U17s and U15s, of course, last year, the U15 side, Coach Olivares and those boys won the tournament last year. It's going to take place March 30th to April 7th in Bradenton, Florida, once again. 28 matches from the tournament will stream live on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV, including the championship match from both age groups. In the group stage of the tournament, U17s drew LAFC, Nashville, and River Plate. So we will see the U17s take on the Argentinian academy in which Sebastian Driussi played as a young player, and then the defending champs, the U15s. Of course, a lot of those guys who won the championship with the U15s, now with the U17s. So it'll be fun to watch both teams as they have progressed year over year. U15s have drawn Colorado, Montreal, and Valencia CF out of La Liga. So each group having one of those international teams. It's going to be fun to keep up with, watch, and give some updates here on the pod.
That is super fun, man. Being a teenager and playing against like a Valencia team like that or whatever, man, that's just like, and then being able to play them like in FIFA, like that's
yeah. I think
cool.
like the game last year, I think the big matchup that we won with the U15s was against Genk. So that was fun. I remember their keeper was pretty highly rated. So that's it for last business day. Let's close it out with the nonsense. And the best ball's not looking great for the North End podcast because we have, just like last year, taken on water with injuries here to start the season. We still have not had an appearance from either of our top two picks in Sebastian Driussi and Hani Mukhtar. And now Pedro de la Vega, another one of our five midfielders, out 6 to 8 weeks. And we are already 14 points behind the rest of the field. 21, which may be our low, even going back through last season.
Mm-hmm.
Congrats to Moontower. Luis Suarez, the high scorer on the week. Moontower wins week 2. But Phil West from Verde All Day and We Are Austin TV right on their heels on the week. And they take over the top spot, tied at the top of the table, 1 point ahead of our boys at the Verde Pendant. Texas Ring of Fire had a little bit of a bounce back week, 36 points. They're on 66 total. So just like Austin, bro, we have to really try to stay afloat here until some of our guys come back.
I'm not worried about it. Draft a superior team. We've been injured, banged up. We haven't had our first two picks.
Andre Blake has been out too. We've only had one keeper, and Pedro Galese took 5 goals against Miami last weekend. It's been a tough start for us.
Well, it's not about the start. It's about how we finish. Wait till we get to that transfer window, the grand feast of Zach Graham.
Yeah. Verde Pendant got big performances out of Lucho Acosta, Ricky Pooch, 11 points each. Phil West, Verde All Day, 3 guys in doubles, 14 from Julian Gressel, 11 from Joseph Paintsil there with the Galaxy, 10 from Cucho. Just one double-digit scorer from Texas Ring of Fire, but it is their second overall pick, Lionel Messi, 15 points. 2 guys in doubles for We Are Austin, 10 from Miles Robinson and Chicho Arango. Moontower, just one guy over 7 points to win the week. That was 20 from Luis Suarez. That's best ball for you. So hopefully we can pick it up here a little bit. Try to stay in touch with the field a little bit here in week 3.
Plenty of time.
All right, and then talking about the bets again, we went to a different format last week. It did not produce a profitable week, but it wasn't terrible, especially by our standards. minus 1.6 units on the week. FC Dallas took a loss at home to Montreal. The Whitecaps drew Charlotte, and we had that half unit on Austin at plus 475. Obviously, the draw there. Only one of our goal scorers came through. Benteke did DNP, so that bet was voided. He picked up a knock in pregame. We do get the plus 210 New York Red Bulls victory at Houston, and Joseph Paintsil scores against San Jose at plus 280, so minus 1.6 units on the week. And some of the spots we're looking at here coming in to week 3. Galaxy on the road for me here. Nashville, a side that is in action tonight, I believe, in the Triple C against Inter Miami. And they're hosting the LA Galaxy this weekend. Obviously, Hani Mukhtar been injured. Sam Surridge is still out. Plus 210 the Galaxy on the road. I think that probably makes an appearance in our picks on Friday night.
Yeah, that's the first one that caught my eye. That Galaxy club is much better. Paintsil is very good. He is very, very good. And it's been fun to watch him go. So I like that one a lot. I'm going back to the well with the Red Bulls. I know it's not a super favorable matchup for the odds makers there, but rumors of the first ever hammer in 2024 have been circulating. Might go to Home Depot, slap that on there, and hammer those Bulls. I mean, they're just generating all kinds of chances, all kinds of looks. Again, they just have very talented players. Forsberg, awesome. Dante Van Zier, not a great dude.
Yeah,
good soccer player. So I like that club.
Yeah, I think, of course, we're always going to have to consider our boys, right? Plus 115 at the moment at home, our Austin FC. So we will certainly be considering everybody's favorite team. And goal scorer props are up already. I know this is counter to the potential Red Bulls pick here. They are hosting FC Dallas. But both Petar Musa and Jesus Ferreira plus 400 to score. Both of those feel pretty enticing. So we'll talk. We'll see how we can maybe work something out there. Denny Buonga, I don't believe, has a goal yet. He's plus 110 to score at home. And then Amal Pellegrino, our boy, San Jose, plus 160. Just some of the goal props that I'm eyeing. Is there anything else for you here?
St. Louis played last night? 2 nights ago?
No, because they crashed out against Houston. So they are done. They played on Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, nothing else for me, but can't wait to be back at the Q.
Yeah, I second that. And before you get out of here, if you've got 5 extra seconds to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, wherever you get your podcast, we would greatly appreciate it. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, on this episode, hit that thumbs up, like the video, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords, atone for your sins. Wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End. Also, leave a comment. That helps battle the overlords as well. Saw a couple people doing just that. We greatly appreciate you. And we'll be back on Sunday, recapping Austin FC's home matchup against St. Louis City and talking about everything else Austin FC that happens between now and then. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. We'll see you on Saturday. Until then, he's E. And I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.